Hi, coming in. What we're actually doing is we're building a chocolate museum here. Now, it's not finished yet, but I'm going to show you around anyway, so come around. Just be a bit careful because there's things that you can trip over. As you can see, it's not finished, but it will be in about a month's time. So, what we're actually doing here is we're building a working chocolate museum. And it all starts, I don't know if you can see this, but it all starts from these beans, okay? Now these beans, they grow in these pods, and you get about 50 beans per pod. I'll just put this down here. Now the pods, they look like this on the trees. Now what you've got here is a real life, genuine, 100% imitation papier-mâché cacao tree plantation. But the colours are right, okay? These are the right colours, the right sizes, and I think they're quite beautiful actually. So what actually happens in the cocoa or the cacao plantations is the beans are first harvested, they're then fermented, which develops the flavour. It's a really important part of the process. And then they're dried out, literally dried out in the sun on the floor. They're then put in these bags, like you can see over there. These jute bags, and then shipped out over here to Europe. And the first thing that we do is we introduce them to Dora. Now let me show you Dora. Okay, so this is Dora, and she's a 1936 cacao and coffee roaster. She's called Dora because Spanish for roaster is tostadora, okay? And we bought her in France in a village called Bar-le-Duc, and she's from 1936, and she looks beautifully. So what we actually do here, we roast the beans, the cacao beans, for 40 minutes, and they start to pop like popcorn. And the aroma in this room is, it's incredible. It's like chocolate, it's like brownies, it's absolutely fantastic. So that's stage one. Now stage two, come over with me. Stage two happens actually inside the factory next door. I don't know if you can see that silver machine with the red lid, okay? Well, what that is there's two granite stones. She's called Molly, and she's a cacao mill. Now, she's called Molly because Spanish for mill is molino. And she's a modern machine. And so inside there's these two granite stones, and they go round and round and round and round and round. And after about 6 hours, the beans become liquid. Not powder, liquid. The reason for that is because the beans contain about 50% cocoa butter, and that butter melts with the heat. And once it's a liquid, we then add the cane sugar, and we let it grind for a further 2 days. During that period of time, there's some acid inside the beans called acetic acid, and that all evaporates, and that really develops the flavour as well, because the beans can taste a little bit vinegary until that process happens. And literally then after about 2.5 days, you've got beautiful dark chocolate, and that's made with just 2 ingredients, okay? The beans and the sugar. Now the problem we've got with Molly is she's too small. We've outgrown her. So I'd like to introduce you to Molly version 2, or Molly's grandmother. So, now Molly's grandmother, I found her rotting in a barn up in the north of Spain, in Zaragoza. And basically, we restored her. She was really rusty. I don't know if you can see that picture, but that's how she looked like when we first bought her. So we've been restoring her. We're now about to put the motor in. But basically, the idea will be you're loaded with beans. It's exactly the same as the modern machine inside. So, loaded with beans, the motor will spin this round and round and round, and these huge granite stones, which weigh 300 kilos each, and they'll just grind and grind and grind. And then basically, after about 2 days' time, we'll have, with this machine, a couple of 100 kilos of chocolate, as opposed to 40 kilos of chocolate that we get with the smaller machine inside. So that's going to be really cool. Now, the next machine I'd like to invite you to see is Heidi. Now, Heidi is a beautiful, beautiful piece of German engineering. And she's actually a printing press. She was designed in 1890, but this particular model is from 1960, okay? Now, the first thing I've got to tell you about this machine is we don't use her to print. If we did, this is where we'd be putting the ink, here. But we're not using her to print. What we actually do is, I print these sheets on a digital laser printer in my office, and that gives us real flexibility because we can work with hotels and they can ring us up and say, Jason, we've got a wedding, we've got a birthday party, and we can put the name of the people on there, we can put the golf course, etc., whatever it is. So we can customise these. So we print these out digitally, and then we use Heidi to cut the sheets, and this is how she works.